So let's discuss dimensionality. Now, sculpture has different levels of how dimensional it is. We have sculpture that is full round. We have sculpture that is in relief. We have partially full round, and we have linear, all of which we're going to discuss here. First, we have sculpture in the round or full round, and this means that this is sculpture that is carved 360 degrees all the way around, or if it helps to think of it, you can literally walk around the sculpture. So all sides are carved. And in this case, this takes the greatest amount of engineering because you have to take gravity into account. How are we going to get that weight into the ground safely? Then we have relief sculpture. Now this is a work that is still attached to a background. The engineering is considerably easier because, for example, with these rearing horses, I don't have to worry about how to get that weight into the ground just through their back legs. I can create pretty much any image I want because it's still attached to the stone in this case in the background. So a little more flexibility in terms of composition, but it's not considered as impressive a form of sculpture as sculpture in the round. Then we have partially full round. Now this is really a narrow part of sculpture. This is where we're crossing the line between relief sculpture and sculpture in the round. And in this case, we're actually mixing the two, which is where you're generally going to see this. So for example, in the background, you can clearly tell that that is relief sculpture, whereas these figures in the foreground look like they're maybe barely superglued to the sculpture itself. Like you could put your hand around it and snap it off pretty easily. And those are usually hallmarks of a piece that is partially full round. And then we have linear sculpture, which emphasizes construction with linear items, such as wire or neon. And these are really the only two times you would see it, either in a mobile, as we see here, where that wire is being used. And our brain understands that wire is three-dimensional, but our eye doesn't read it that way. Our eye tends to read wire as simply a line, hence why it's a little different than in the round. The other place we tend to see this is neon signs, because while we understand that the sign logically must be three-dimensional, when we look at it lit up over at the brass rail or at Pumpers and Mitchell's, where usually it smells of stale beer and desperation, when we see that neon sign, our eye tells us that it's simply a line. So it doesn't really fit into relief sculpture, and it doesn't really fit into sculpture in the round. So it's got its own form, linear sculpture.